Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Literary Distraction with me, Hazel Gaynor. I hope you're enjoying these short videos where I'm talking about all of my books, starting from the very beginning and taking you through each of the books in turn that they were published, to talk to you about how I came to write that book and to hopefully encourage some of you who haven't read it to go back and discover it. I hope you're all doing well. We are experiencing fabulous weather here in Ireland at the moment. So I've literally just come in from the garden where I'm sitting doing my final read through of my new book that I talked about last week. So it's just so lovely to be able to sit and enjoy the sunshine and the bird song and feel a little bit normal for a little while at least. So I hope you're all doing okay wherever you are in the world. So this week is A Memory of Violet, which I know from many messages from lots of readers over the years and still is a favourite of many of you, and is also very much a favourite of mine. This was the second novel that I wrote, and at the time I had only self-published my debut novel, The Girl Who Came Home, and it was actually this book and The Girl Who Came Home together that secured my first publishing deal with HarperCollins. So the two books have always been very special to me. And I think there's an awful lot of myself in this book. It tells the story of orphaned flower sellers. It's set in 1876 in Covent Garden in London, and in and around Covent Garden in the flower markets in London. And it also is partly set in 1912 between a similar area in London and the Lake District. And the two stories intertwine and move around and move apart. And there's a little bit of a mystery that threads through them all. It was such an amazing book to research and to write. It initially was going to be a quite different story. But as I started to research the lives of flower sellers in London in the late 1800s, I discovered this amazing story of a man called John Groome, who established what he called flower homes to take young girls and women off the streets and to help them to develop a skill in making artificial flowers from silk and other materials. And it was to help them have a job that wasn't dependent on the seasons or the weather, but gave them employment, gave them security and a sense of family all year. And when I read that, I actually stopped writing the version of the book that it was going to be, and it went in a very different direction because of discovering the story of John Groome's Flower Girls. And that really is what underpins the whole of the story in A Memory of Violets, was this remarkable set of women who came from the most impossible circumstances and had found themselves on the streets, impoverished, desperate, and were given a second chance. And I just thought this was remarkable. So this is the story of two Irish sisters, Florrie and Rosie, who are orphaned and find themselves working on the streets in London, which was a very dangerous, very difficult situation at the time. And it's about another young woman, Tilly Harper, who in 1912 discovers the diary, the writings of Florrie, who has been looking for her sister. And as the novel develops and evolves, we start to understand what happened back in 1876, and Tilly's own story and own situation in life develops as we go along with the story as well. Lots of people have asked me where I got the idea for the book in the first place, and it actually came from this, My Fair Lady. And this is an old VHS video which shows you how old I am. But this astonishing, amazing, brilliant movie musical starring Audrey Hepburn and Rex Harrison had a really important part in my life. When I was at the tender age of 17, I think I played the part of Eliza Doolittle in the school musical production of My Fair Lady. which is obviously based on the play Pygmalion, written by George Bernard Shaw. I can pretty much still recite all of the lines from the play and sing all of the songs. I won't put you through the torture of listening to them now. But it was the most amazing experience. It was a really happy time in my school life. And it has really stayed with me. And when I was thinking of an idea for a novel to write after I'd written The Girl Who Came Home, I started to think about Eliza Doolittle and who the real flower sellers in Covent Garden were, and why would a real Eliza Doolittle end up in that situation? What was her story? What was her background? What would it have been like to live in the slums in London at that time and to, as a contradiction, be amongst the beauty of the flower markets and walk around the streets selling them for a twopence to the very wealthy ladies and gentlemen who were attending the theatres. So I just started from there. And really it was that led me into researching the lives of real flower sellers and then discovering the story of John Broome and his flower girls. What I also discovered through my research was the incredible Victorian language of flowers, as it was known, where certain flowers had meaning, even to the extent where there were actual dictionaries written to help people understand what flowers meant certain things. And this incredible language of flowers was used quite often for people to express emotion, to, for example, let a young lady know if a young man was keen on her, he could deliver a certain collection of flowers and it would have a very significant meaning. And these beautifully illustrated floral dictionaries were produced to help people navigate this whole language of its own, this language of flowers. So connecting the two, connecting the language of flowers. My cat's just come in, so you might see or hear a cat. It always arrives when I'm speaking. So connecting this language of flowers that was very prevalent in Victorian society, and hello, Puffin, and the work of the flower sellers just seemed to make perfect sense, and also allowed for some really beautiful. She's not really allowed to do that, by the way. She's scratching on the furniture. We'll let her off because she's quite a star, Puffin. I actually dedicated I acknowledged her in one of my books because she's that important. So yeah, the language of flowers theme in the book also allowed for some really gorgeous illustrations inside, and each part of the book, my publisher did an amazing job on, has those sort of Victorian botanical illustrations of flowers and what it stands for, and each of these flowers and the message has a specific meaning in the book. So it was a really beautiful book, very heartbreaking book to research, actually, when you think about, as a mother myself, how excruciating it would be to think that your children were left to fend for themselves on the very dangerous, dirty streets of London. But it also is a very hopeful and uplifting book. I know I've reduced a lot of people to tears with it, so approach with caution. But it's not a sad book. It's not a sad book for the sake of being sad. As I hope with all of my books, it's a very human story, a very touching story full of hope, full of the beauty of flowers, and just a fascinating part of history that... Are you coming to say hello? Come on then. Oh, there she is. This is my big fluff ball, Puffin. Coming to say hello. She's going there. So, thank you to everyone who has read the book already and let me know how much they enjoyed it. And I hope that many more of you will discover it now or will reread it during these strange times of lockdown and uncertainty. I think books are giving us such a great opportunity to escape from all of that at the minute. So, and yes, a lot of people have said, would I like to see A Memory of Violets adapted into a TV series or a movie? Absolutely, yes. I think it would make a fabulous Sunday evening, sort of Downton Abbey serialised program. So who knows, one of these days, maybe somebody will pick it up and go, do you know what? That's exactly what we need right now. So that's a little bit of an insight into A Memory of Violet. I also just wanted to mention that Puffin's now just scratching something else. The message I recorded last week showed the covers for my new book, which has 2 different titles depending on where you are in the world. So When We Were Young and Brave in the USA and Canada, and Bird in the Bamboo Cage for the UK, Ireland, Australia and New Zealand. If any of you have already pre-ordered the book, please send me an email with confirmation of that pre-order to hazelgaynor@gmail.com, and I will send you a signed bookplate at publication time. It's just as a thank you. We're all trying to do our best to support bookshops at the moment, and I also think it's great to have something to look forward to. So I'm pre-ordering lots of books at the minute, and that'll hopefully be a lovely surprise when I forget I've ever done that and a book arrives. So do send confirmation of any pre-orders you've placed, and I'll send you a signed bookplate, include your address obviously. I'll send that at publication time later in the year. Next week I will be discussing my first co-authored novel, written with my dear friend in the States, Heather Webb, and our first co-written book was Last Christmas in Paris. And I actually think, even though it has the word Christmas in the title, it really doesn't have to be read at that time of the year. And given how many people are saying they're finding it really hard to concentrate at the moment, it's a book that's written purely in letter form between 2 characters. It's set through the 4 years of the First World War, and I think it could be the perfect read at the moment. So I'll talk more about that in my video next week. For now, I just want to say thank you for listening. And I also have a copy of A Memory of Violets, which I will sign and dedicate to you to give away to one person who leaves a comment on this video. So just say hi, whatever you want to say, just leave your comment in the video comments area below, and I'll choose one winner by the end of the week, and I'll contact you, and then I'd be delighted to send a signed copy of A Memory of Violets to that person. So don't forget to leave a comment below. And for now, all that remains to say is have a very happy Easter. Stay safe, stay well, stay home, and I'll see you next week. Bye.